Senator Whelan.
Thank you very much, Garryhinch. And my question is very straightforward. It's not at all opportunistic in the context of that the country has been deemed by Med Éireann to be in the middle of a drought. Officially, we are in drought. Now, while on many terms and on many concerns, that's to be welcomed because we're entitled to a few good days, no doubt. And after the last 5 years of rain throughout the year and throughout the summer, I don't want to rain on anyone's parade, as it were, and to spoil the moment because I'm enjoying it myself. And indeed, it would be sort of maybe remiss in a fashion that as the country and the internet and Facebook and Twitter seems to have gone into overload just now in relation to the birth of a royal baby, in the context of what we've been discussing here in the last number of days, it would be remiss of me not to wish the mother and baby well in the context of what we're trying to achieve here this week in the final days of this current sitting of the Seanad. Nonetheless, I am more preoccupied and have been for some time, not just because of the latest fine spell with the drought and with a failure really by previous governments, Minister, I have to say, to provide for strategic infrastructure in the area of water provision. The Ahern government seemed to, regale in the building of houses as it did. 600,000 housing units in 10 years, and nothing else besides. And what you were left with was concrete jungles, housing estates after housing estate after housing estate, and no facilities, including water provision. No one thought it through, no one thought it out. We have, the same with the schools. Rory Quinn is having to play catch-up in replacing prefabs all over the country. And indeed, that story is told time and time again throughout our urban centres. Loads of houses and not much else in terms of facilities and infrastructure. And water has been, if you like, the Cinderella. We are left with Victorian infrastructure, water pipes that are leaking 40% of valuable, highly treated water, which costs the taxpayer billions to produce and present. So it seems absurd in a country that up until this year that it never seemed to stop raining, that we're actually about to run out of water. And I certainly do not want to be part of a government that allows the country to run out of water. In recent weeks, the government have been very successful in attracting new investment in terms of the Kerry Group, in terms of Pfizer, in terms of Intel, major expansions and major employers in the Leinster region for employees all way beyond Kildare where they're based. They come from Laois, they come from Offaly, they come from Dublin. These employees are glad of that employment. And one of our strategic, if you like, resources and assets and advantages is our clean, secure, sustainable supply of water. However, we're on the verge of, in terms of the balance, the knife edge that they speak of between the balance between supply and demand is very precarious at the moment, and it's going to deteriorate further. Indeed, were it not for the recession, I think we would be in a more critical juncture. So what I'm asking, Minister, is that I welcome the establishment of Irish Water. And perhaps one of the few politicians in the country who's willing to put their hand on their heart who welcomes the charging for water. I think it's long overdue. I'll make no apologies to anyone. But the reality is that it's wrong, in my view, for the government to emphasise and to prioritise the water metering programme and charging for water without simultaneously and in tandem ensuring that we have a secure supply of water. I believe that can be achieved by the construction of the first reservoir in this country to be built in 70 years. It's a project that's been on the books for 12 years now. A joint project between Dublin City Council and Bord na Móna, who had the vision and the foresight to pursue this at a time when it wasn't fashionable, when Bertie Ahern wanted to build the Bertie Bowl. We should have been building and securing strategic infrastructure. And what I'm asking, Minister, is this. I'm concerned. I welcome the establishment of Irish Water, but I want to know how high up their priority list is the provision of the Garryhinch Reservoir, a secure and safe water supply that we're in control of, that the state can make sure that for commerce, for industry, for foreign direct investment, for householders and for the agri-sector, if we're to meet our targets under the Harvest 2020, we must have a secure supply of water. And as we speak this, Minister, and I'll finish this point, Garryhinch, there are 10 local authorities already rationing water. And we have hosepipe bans which are necessary because there are people who seem to think nothing of going out and watering lawns with treated water. This is not acceptable. It can't continue. But the answer to it and the cure to it is to build the Garryhinch Reservoir in Portarlington, which will ensure that this country enables itself to have a secure supply of water for the Leinster region, for the Midlands. It's not a Dublin issue, and I'm hoping, Minister, that Irish Water understand how precarious the problem is and how serious the problem is, and I hope you have a positive answer for me this evening.
Tara.
Thank you, Lasker Healy, and I thank the Senator for raising this important issue and his thoughtful remarks, as always, and analysis that he has offered the House. I'm dealing with this matter this evening on behalf of my colleague, the Minister for the Environment, Community and Local Government. The availability of a long-term, reliable, high-quality and economic supply of drinking water is a key requirement for the future development of the Leinster and the Greater Dublin area. The Dublin Regional Water Supply Area consists of all of Dublin City, Fingal, South Dublin and Dún Laoghaire-Rathdown, along with parts of Wicklow, Kildare and Meath. The Dublin Water Supply Scheme long-term water source is listed as a scheme at planning stage in the Department of the Environment, Community and Local Government's Water Services Investment Programme 2010 to 2013. Dublin City Council is the lead authority for this scheme on behalf of all the water service authorities in the Greater Dublin area. Studies carried out for the City Council and a strategic environmental assessment have identified a preferred option which involves abstraction of raw water from Lough Derg and pumping the abstracted water through a new pipeline to a proposed storage reservoir at Garryhinch Cutaway Bog in County Offaly, forming part of a proposed Midlands water-based eco-park. After treatment, water would then be conveyed to the west of Dublin, where the new supply would be integrated with the existing storage and trunk distribution system. Dublin City Council has recently carried out a procurement process, and I understand that they will shortly be in a position to appoint a consultant to advance the further planning of this scheme. The programme for project implementation has been developed based on the planning and statutory approval phase taking approximately 2 years. The detailed design and procurement phase should take a further 2 years, while the construction and commissioning phase should be completed in 3 years. Following their appointment by Dublin City Council, the consultants will undertake the environmental impact statement and other statutory requirements in preparation for a submission from Bord Pleanála, who will adjudicate on the matter. Following the passage of comprehensive legislation later this year, Irish Water will assume responsibility for the delivery of investment in public water services infrastructure from the 1st of January next. The programme of investment for 2014 to 2015 is currently being prepared by Irish Water, and the implementation strategy agreed by Government provides for the development of a detailed capital programme transition plan to ensure the smooth transition from the Water Service Investment Programme 2010-2013 to the Irish Water 2014-2015 plan. The objective of this plan, currently being developed with programme partners, is to ensure that there is no loss of momentum in capital delivery in relation to projects, whether at construction or at planning. The Government recently approved the general scheme for the comprehensive legislation, and it addresses planning and investment matters, including providing that Irish Water would prepare strategic investment plans addressing a 25-year period. The plans are aimed at addressing the provision of sufficient water services for domestic users as well as business and industry. In the course of preparing the plans, Irish Water will be required to consult with the economic and environmental regulators, the regional assemblies proposed under Putting People First, and the local authorities. Minister Hogan will also be required to approve the plans. Irish Water will also prepare water services capital investment plans for the purpose of submitting tariff proposals to the economic regulator. The capital investment plans will take account of the provisions set out in the Water Services Strategic Plan and will be aligned with the next cycle of river basin management plans required under the EU Water Framework Directive. The plans will have regard to the river basin management plans, local development plans and resources available to the company from government grants and its own resources. These mechanisms will ensure continued prioritisation of projects of strategic importance currently in planning in the Department of the Environment, Community and Local Government's Water Services Investment Programme, following the handover of the capital programme to Irish Water. The Dublin Water Supply Scheme long-term water source is one such scheme. The establishment of a single water utility should allow for a more streamlined approach to the planning and delivery of the capital programme, which should result in important strategic projects being accelerated.
Thank you, Senator. Have you a question?
I do indeed, Lasker, if I might, and won't delay the House. And as I welcome the Minister's answer. I think the problem is duly identified and there is a solution afoot. But my concern is based in the answer, in that the lead-in time is up to 3 years. And I think time is of the essence. And we also have 3 departments involved, Minister Rabbitte, Minister Hogan and Minister Fergus O'Dowd, who I know are all committed to ensuring this problem is addressed. But I think it's important that we have a coherent strategy that identifies the urgency of this project, that it needs to be addressed without any further delay. And Minister, to take up your other point, I too pay due regard to concerns of the Shannon Valley and residents along the Shannon Basin. There are 18 counties involved, and I would not for a second dismiss or in any fashion take lightly their environmental or ecological concerns. And I would not support this project if I thought for 1 second that it was going to have any damage on the Shannon Basin, its environment or ecology. And I just want to reiterate that the Shannon Lascahirlock is in flood 80% of the year, and the proposal by Dublin City Council and indeed Bord na Móna and now Irish Water is to abstract the water from the Shannon when it's on the flood to the tune of 4%, 2 to 4% of the water on the flood, which very often damages the land and causes serious problem throughout most of the year. So I think it's a very viable project, and I think it's in everyone's interest, not just the Dublin region, but the Midlands and beyond. However, I will say that this is a 500 million investment which will create 1,000 construction jobs, and thereafter we will have a resource and an asset for the country in terms of strategic infrastructure and in terms of a recreational resource comparable, if you like, to Rutland Water in East Anglia, which will create 250 to 300 sustainable jobs last Cathaoirleach. But I do think, and I'd like to make this point, that it would be to put the cart before the horse last Cathaoirleach if we were to charge for water and to meter for water before we provide for the provision of that water. And I do urge the government and the ministers and Minister here with us this evening to take back the message that they must expedite the construction of the Garryhinch Reservoir, because time is of the essence, because it would be an absolute absurdity to allow this country to actually run out of water, and that's what we're facing unless we build a new reservoir. Thank you.
Just to say that I will certainly relay back the Senator's additional remarks, and I'm sure Minister Hogan will take due note, as the Senator has asked, of the additional points, including the reference he makes to the necessity to expedite these projects as quickly as ever possible.
Minister, are you taking the final matter on the adjournment?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.